So I'm Justin, I'm from Gacha Games. I'm here to talk about how we transition our student project Lurking to Stifled. So, yeah. So quick introduction. At Gacha Games, I'm the design and business guy. So what I mean is like, I do some design work, game design work, and then I make sure there's money in the bank. And then during my school time, I was on Lurking. I was a producer, art director, and game designer. Yep. So if you want to find me on the internet, it's quite easy. It's all there. Right. So what is Gacha Games, right? So Gacha Games is made up of 6 guys. It started off with 3 co-founders, myself and 2 other guys. And then because of Stifled, our indie title, we expanded the team to be more guys. So we had 2 more guys, and then recently we added Andre. Yep. So before I go into the talk, I'll just show a quick video about what Lurking is, and then so you guys can have a better understanding of what the game is. Right. Lurking, right? It's a sound-based horror game. So what we mean by that is in the game, you use sound to see. So when you're walking, you're creating footsteps. Footsteps create sounds. Sounds create pulses that light up the world. Without sound, you don't see a thing. But all the enemies in the game hear those sounds. So the more sound you make, the more you see, but it's easier to get caught. So it was produced in 6 months at Digipen. It has about 15 to 25 minutes of playtime, and it got a bunch of awards. It's because one of the awards that we got nominated for Sense of Wonder Night, and we realized like, okay, this game kind of has a bit of traction, so we decided to make it a full title. So that's kind of why Gacha Games is pursuing Stifled as a full title rather than doing other things. Okay, so Stifled, it's a spiritual successor. By that we don't mean it's not a sequel, because Digipen owns all the rights to Lurking. So what we mean by spiritual successor is like the story is new, the art is new, everything is brand new. Yep. So yeah. So I think the biggest difference between a student project and like a commercial title, right, is really the business and legal side of things. So that's where the focus of my talk would be about. Even though the title says it's like student project to indie title, I feel like if you're working for someone now, the content might be useful for you, right? Because like you want to go indie from a job. And yeah, so I'll be speaking of our experience from how we start up a company, how we dealt with our IP issues, and then how we figure out like how we want to sell and make money from the game, right? And then we have some time for Q&A at the back, so yeah. Okay, so starting a company, right? I think every country has their own legal system, so I wouldn't be going into too much detail about this. It's more about general things that we took note of. So first thing is, are you working alone or are you working with a team? So if you're working with a team, it's kind of important to figure out who is doing what and then figure out who will get what from the company. So like things like equity and stuff. What I think is important is like we just get through this competition early, and then you can actually focus on making a game. Next point is legal protection. There are some setups where the owner is personally liable to a lot of the legal issues. So that's something that you need to consider as well. And then lastly is financial flexibility. So what I mean is like investments. Is your company set up to take up investments? Do you have equity to give away? Things like that. So in our case, we started a corporate entity, which is Gacha Games. Me and my co-founders all have a bit of equity. And then because of the share structure, right, we will be able to take investments if we need to. And then because it's a private entity, it has its own legal protection. It has its own legal structure. So it's like we, the owners, wouldn't be liable for a bunch of damages. Yep. And then the last point is more about if you're in a country where there has support for SMEs or like game media companies, try to understand the kind of policies that you can make use of. So for us, we started off with a bit of grant money from the government, Spring, because we are first-time entrepreneurs. And then we are working at this place called Game Solution Center. They provide like free space and then utilities. So that's really helpful. We save a lot of money from that. So if you're in a country that has that, or even if you're not sure if they have that, try to make it a point to research, and then there might be something to do. Right? Just don't be ashamed, right? Like you need money, just take it. Right. So like what I really want to say is like learn the system and then make use of it. Right. So just understand where you're working and then you'll do fine. Okay. Next thing is intellectual property. It's important to know that like you're making a game, right? You don't want to be infringing on someone else's IP because that's where you're gonna make money from. So in our case, because Lurking belonged to Digipen, we decided like even though we could take the concept because like, you can't really protect a sound-based concept. We could take the concept and run with it to make a new game. We decided to like talk to them and then try to get their support, and it turned out well for us. So Digipen just asked for a small credit placement at the back, which is quite nice. So this may apply to you, like if you're studying, right? Your school probably owns your IP that you create. If you're working, pretty much the same thing. Your employer probably owns your IP if you're doing some prototypes in school, in the workplace. But I think I'll leave this to you guys to decide whether you want to talk to people, talk to them and try to figure something out. It worked for us, it might not work for you. Yep. And then, so after you figure out you're clear for IP, any kind of IP conflicts, right? Like in our case, we have a team of like 3 people to 6 people. Like who owns what is being created? So I think it's general good practice in the industry to have the entity own everything, so it makes everything less messy. So in our case, Gatai Games owns all the IP. We as developers just vest everything to Gatai Games. Yep. And it's because of this, like, and then we also think it's important to like reward the developers or like give something in exchange for what they have done. So in our case, we just take a chunk of the revenue from whatever they worked on, and then it just goes back to revenue share. So like that's how we as a company work. So just figure out if your company needs this. There's a lot of different ways of doing it. Some people use bonuses and stuff. So for us, it's like protect your team's interests. Make sure you're clear on the legal side with other people, and then try to make everybody in your team happy. So it's like if everybody's happy, right, you'll probably make the best product. Yeah. Okay. Last point. Okay, so after you figure out how to start a company, you're clear of all the legal issues with IP. Next step is really figuring out how do you want to go about making money, right? Because it's a business after all. But disclaimer: we as a company haven't sold anything yet, so whatever I'm saying now, it might be total. So yeah, just take it with a pinch of salt. Yeah. So things like one thing to take note of is your platform and business models. Pretty standard now. We have the PC, consoles, mobile, and then business models, freemium, premium. These are the main ones. So Gatai Games started off doing some mobile prototypes, and then we realized we didn't really enjoy what we're doing. So from then we pivoted to doing some PC prototypes. We had a lot of fun, and then Lurking started to get some traction, and then we decided to pursue that. So for us, what worked was we did what we wanted, and then that kind of led us to the choices that we made. So because Stifled is a horror game, right, we probably, the game graphics itself doesn't work on mobile, so that's out of the question. We don't want people to play a horror game on mobile, so that's out of the question, right? And then a horror game doesn't really play well to freemium monetization, because that will probably spoil the experience. So it was pretty clear for us. It's like we're just going to go PC consoles and then just do premium, right? And then next point, once you figure out how you want to make money and where you want to make it from, how do you bring the game to your players? So I think the 2 main ways people do it now is either they self-publish on mobile, which is pretty easy, and then or you go with a publisher that will help you out with stuff. I don't think there's a right answer to this, and I'm not here to give you one because I have no idea what I'm doing anyway. So, yeah. And then just figure out what makes the most sense for you. Sorry. So regardless of whether you're planning to do self-publish or go with a publisher, right, just be open and talk to them about it. Ask them questions, see what they can offer. Because regardless of whether you go with them or not, you will learn a lot. Like when is the best time to release your game, whether your game is interesting enough, have they seen something like this? Are there any kind of shows that they recommend you to go? So even through the conversations, you'll learn a bunch of things, and then from there you can figure out whether you want to go with a self-publisher, whether you want to self-publish or go with a publisher. And then, yeah, regardless of whether you're going to self-publish or with a publisher, marketing is really important. Like nobody is going to care if you don't make them care, right? It's just you just need to tell people about your game. So like try to be active on social media. Like for us, we were quite active on social media. We were active on like free game sites on Lurking, and then we went to shows and told people about our game. And then I think that helped us a lot because we got to meet a lot of people, figure out what kind of game makes sense for the market. Yeah. So if you have a good game, try to give it the best chance of survival. Don't just throw it out in the wild and then nobody will know about it. Yeah. So I think my talk was pretty short. I think it's done. So what I meant is like, for us, what worked was we let the game guide our decisions. We worked on the game that we wanted to, and then everything else kind of fell into place. Yep. So yeah, it's time for questions. Yeah.
Any question?
So yeah, that's a good question. As with all games, there are delays. We're hoping to be able to put it out early next year. No guarantees, but we'll try. Yeah. Yeah, we'll try our best.
Any other question?
Yeah.
I don't know who raised hand first. Let's say you first.
As a new developer,
Yeah.
are you looking for anything? Like, are you looking for publisher? What are you looking for investors? I don't know.
So the question is like, what do I look for as a new developer that's based in Singapore or in general?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Are you looking for anything?
I think for us as indies, right, we just want to build what we want to build. So most of the time, we're just looking for funding / money. That's really what we're looking for. Publishers wise, we went through the whole thing. We spoke to like 10 plus publishers, and we're still trying to figure out if we want to go with them yet. So we're not sure. But right now, we're erring toward the side of like doing self-publishing because we feel like we already have access to the consoles that we want to get access to. We have some press contacts that we think should work out for us. So yeah, it's more like we just figure out what people do usually, and then we just tried to do everything, and then from there we kind of found our own answer, kind of thing. Yeah, does that answer the question? Yeah. Okay.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah. So my question is, when you transition from being a student to being a full-fledged indie, right?
Yep.
Was there any sense of feeling lost that when you were suddenly out there? And, just share with us how you felt when you were just out there, by yourself.
Okay. So I think as a student, I've been making games for like 7 years already. I think me and my team, we are pretty good at making games. So on the game side, we were pretty okay. Like we kind of knew what we were gonna do. We were lost mostly on how we're gonna go about doing business. Like how do we figure out how do we get on the PC? How do we get onto the consoles? Whether anybody will actually talk about our game. So all these kind of things is something that is the biggest worry for us. So, but we got lucky lah. We were able to go to shows, and then from there we met a lot of people that eventually led us to get onto the consoles and stuff. So part luck, and then the rest is really just research. That's what I thought is important. We just do a lot of research, figure out what we want to get done, and then find a way to do it. Essentially, yeah. Yep.
What do you think the schools can do better to help students like in your position getting out to become indies or even more prepared for the industry?
Yeah. Like I said, my main focus on my talk is mostly the business stuff. So I feel like if schools have the curriculum to introduce to their students, right, like where they're working, and then give them a bit of info and then start to prime them for the outside world, that might be useful. I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah, so like get a bit of information like how the legal things work, how the business structure in your country works, that kind of thing. Yeah. Yes.
So with regards being the design and the business guy for
Yeah.
Kata Games, right?
Yep.
So how much of the business side has influenced yourself as a designer, and where do you see forward? Do you hate the business side of thing, or you like, okay, this is kind of fun, or you want to stick to it, or you want to forego your game design kind of like?
Wow, that's a tough question.
Right?
That's a really tough question.
Long term.
Right. So I think what I figured out after starting a company is like I started wanting to do both design work and business side stuff, and then because that's what I'm interested in. And then most of my team are not that interested in the business stuff, so I got the short end of the stick. Plus, I was happy with it, if that any makes sense. And then doing this whole thing now, I feel like the business things actually take quite a bit of my time. And then, so like I used to hate suits, right? Like I hate people telling me what to do, but I've become that. I'm a bit annoying to my team. I know that for a fact. I do want to go back to development sometime. So right now I still do a bit of development, but it's pretty low level stuff. I mean like high level stuff. I don't really do like level design or stuff. I just do very simple things. So at least I get the feel of the game. So moving forward, I think that's what I want to do. Just focus on business, try to focus on making sure the game can be sold, and then the team just focus on making a really good game, and then I just help them as I can. Yeah, just help sell it, make sure I can make money. Yeah.
Another question?
Hi,
Yeah.
we met in TGS, I think, last year. Anyway, my
NYP,
question
right?
was,
Yeah.
yes, NYP.
Yeah.
My question is, was there any part of the discussion with Digipen that you could have used the lurking IP
So
to set up the company?
yeah, so I think looking at Digipen, if I'm not wrong, they just told me that they actually released the lurking IP to us. But personally, because Digipen has a pretty deep history with spiritual successes, we have a bunch of games that were done in Digipen that went on to become indie titles. So we looked at those as like case studies, and we followed that structure. It's like we don't want to use the same name because we wanted to have our own identity kind of thing. So that's what we decided to do. So I think I'm not sure if they're still doing that, but we just went the safe route. We just took Stifled, and then we just went Stifled. Yep.
Okay.
So if you had to do anything over again,
Yeah.
knowing what you know now,
Yeah.
what would it be? What would be the number one thing you'd change?
What's the number? I wouldn't have wasted time doing mobile. Yeah. I spent 3 months figuring out I don't like doing mobile games. And then, so I would have chose not to do it. Yeah, that's the biggest thing I would have done. Because that would have allowed me to focus on going towards what I wanted to do, which is PC and consoles. Yeah. Yep.
Any other question? Still have a couple of minutes.
So you said you spent a few months on mobile and then a few months on some PC prototypes.
Yep.
If lurking didn't gain traction,
Yep.
what would be Guitar Games?
So if we didn't get lucky with lurking, right? We had a local multiplayer game that we probably have been working on it right now. Like we did a few prototypes, and then that was okay. We were planning to do a bit more. So I wouldn't be able to tell you what we would have done, but at that point in time when we pivoted to do lurking, we had a local multiplayer game. And then after when we started doing lurking, we did another game jam, and then we had 2 local multiplayer games. So that's like, we have some options, just that lurking got that traction. It makes sense to go there. Yeah. Yep.
Sorry.
Anything else?
How much
Yeah.
how much exposure do you have when you were in school about the indie industry as a whole?
I think you talking just about Singapore or worldwide? Okay, so in school, I think Singapore, I knew a bit about the indie scene. I know there are some indie games here and there. Overseas obviously like the States have a very big scene. So I think in Digipen how do I put it? I think they train you to be really good developers, so you can make games, but they don't really tell you to either you want to go indie or go into business. Like sometimes they will bring in people to talk about IP. Sometimes they will talk about law stuff, about like companies. And then we have like company talks, right? Like Ubisoft will come by, Bandai Namco will come by. So we get a bunch of different companies to come in, and then from there you kind of get the connections and you try to learn from there, I guess. Yeah. But for us, it's like I went to Digipen with the aim to find people to work with lah. So it's like I kind of knew I want to go indie after graduation. So it's like, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Another question? Yeah.
So obviously the game doesn't work on mobile.
Yep.
But why do you say that you wouldn't like to work on mobile? And what do you think the consoles or the PC brings in favor as opposite of the mobile as a platform?
Okay, so when we started doing mobile, right? Because the market research made sense to go mobile, because that is where the money is, right? But we started doing it, and then we realized, okay, we had to do a lot of design work on monetization. We need to do a lot of server work to make sure our stuff don't get stolen. We need to make sure the social stuff works. So it's like there's a bunch of design problems / tech problems that we just weren't that interested in solving. So we didn't really enjoy the process. So that kind of like led us to like, you know what, we don't really like doing this. Like we told the core team kind of said to each other like, we're gonna do this for 2 years, and then like if we're gonna do this or commit to 2 years, right, we might as well do something that we really love, and that is doing the kind of PC games kind of thing. So that was the main thing. Yeah.
Any other question? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hi. So it's your current approach, right, to distance yourself from lurking, or are you trying, or what steps are you taking to get the lurking fans to your current game?
So every time we post anything regarding Stifled, we will just repost it onto our lurking stuff. And then anytime we got a chance, we just, hey guys, Stifled has something new on the website. We just keep pushing them to Stifled, keep pushing them to Stifled. So essentially everything on the net that has anything to do with lurking, right, that somewhere, somehow there is something to do with Stifled as well. So if people are interested, they can just click and then go. Yeah, and then we have a bit of like newsletters going out. So those, I think those should be helpful in the future. It's still a bit, we haven't started testing newsletters, but we hope that will work out for us as well. Yeah. Yep.
We may have time for one last question if there's any.
Wow. keep going, it's okay. What?
Yeah. No last question? Well, then that was the last question. Thank you, Justin.
All right, cool. Yeah, thank you.